Howdy do, folks. Here's the old mountain man talking at you from the backside of this here lake in the hills of Arkansas. Well, this is the second in a series on survival. And the subject matter of this video is going to be about a little known, very little thought about subject known as parasites. What's eating you? See, whenever you go out in the woods, everything out there knows you're there. If someone were to walk right up in the middle of your living room, like say, maybe not someone, but say an animal walks into your living room, you're gonna know it. Well, it's the same thing with all the bears and bees and bugs and rabbits and squirrels and everything else out there in the woods. They know you're there. And the parasites are saying, fresh food. Exactly. Disgusting, but hey, that's a basic fact of life in the woods. And the truth of the matter is, the majority of people in the United States and the world have parasites in their body. You may not even know it. That doesn't mean you're a nasty, filthy person. That just means you've been the victim of a parasite infestation in your body. Some medical professionals call it an infection, but it's an infestation. It's a big difference. I'm looking for my cigarette papers. I may have to step back in the house. Yep. Pardon me for a second, folks. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, parasites. For example, I once caught a nice big fat bass in a particular coal pit just up north of my hometown. And I brought it back to show it to one of my mentors, old Sonny, and next thing I know, he's looking that fish over real close, and he says, "You're gonna want to cook that real good, boy." I said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, I always cook my food real good." And he said, "Well, that's good, because this fish is wormy." I said, "Wormy? Fish get worms?" And he pointed out to me these little white specks in the fins, and the dorsal fin, or the fin right there on the back of the fish. And he said those are worm eggs. Once that worm hatches out, it's going to go right straight down into that fin, into that flesh, and feed off that fish. And he asked me where I caught it, and I told him. And he said, "Well, that body of water needs to be treated with red phosphorus, or phosphorus. It's not only good for scum, but it's good for scum and algae and weeds growing in the water, but it's good for killing parasites." And they use it a lot in Kentucky on the horse ranches to keep the ponds clear where the holes of water. Well, look here, I'm looking for a lighter and it's hanging around my neck. I had to have me a cigarette. Well, they use that red phosphorus to control parasites in the water, and also to maintain those little stock tanks and stock tank as well in Texas, my actual home state where I was born. I was raised in Oklahoma ever since I was a baby, but I consider Texas my home. Getting off the subject there for a second, but at any rate, I was wanting to explain, the term stock tank is just what most folks in Oklahoma and Arkansas would call a pond. wanted to elaborate on that just a little, and wound up telling you a little bit more about me. But at any rate, that's another video. What I'm doing now is putting a little thread seal tape around this here propane canister so these steel threads don't do any damage to the cast aluminum fixture on my Coleman 1-burner stove. Kind of adds a little cushion or a buffer, if you will. Teflon thread seal tape. You can get it at Walmart, back there where you got plumbing supplies and stuff. You know me, I gotta have my coffee. Anyway, Sonny went on to tell me about these parasites that get in these fish, these worms. And he said, they may not hurt you, but you don't want to really take a chance. You don't want to take a chance on these things getting in your system and harming you. Now that I've about made you sick, scared the hell out of you, about, you know, and out there in the woods, there are things that are going to come up out of the ground, lay eggs on the ground, in the ground. You know, dropping a piece of food on the ground and picking it up and dusting it off, or washing it off. Washing it off would be good. Tossing it back, washing it off and tossing it back in a cook pot would be better. If you're not into wasting survival food, you know, I'm talking on purely a survival basis. Here at home, I throw it to a little bear. If it lands on the ground, he gets it. If it goes on the ground, it goes to the hound. But there are so many different parasites out there in the woods, or out here in the woods. There's all kinds of critters going around. You know, and to name a few that dogs get, you know, pinworms, hookworms, heartworms, you know, God, all kinds. I probably could go on and on and on naming all of them. Well, truth be known, there is one basic remedy to kill all parasites out of the human body and the animal body. And that is the green hull of the black walnut. If you have black walnut trees in your yard, or relative's yard, or whatever, get those suckers while the hulls are still green. You know, right when they fall, if not, knock them off the tree yourself. Get them, get that husk off of there, put it in a glass jar or a decent food grade plastic bag that's BPA free. Put it in your freezer. And at your convenience, dehydrate those things. If they turn black, they're not that potent. But you gotta have the green hull. Chop it up, powder it down, put it in a food processor or whatever, and keep it. And it's bitter. It's bitter as it can be. But you can capsule it up in gelatin capsules that you can get on eBay or online at any health food outlet, most likely. You can take them like that. Pregnant and nursing women have to be careful of these kinds of things, because be careful of the black walnut hull, because it is what they call a mutagen, and it can harm the baby. And whatever the mother takes in is passed out through her breast milk, as we all know. And if you didn't know, now you know. So, yeah. Now, I talked about this whenever in regards to pork or pig meat. They carry a great number of parasites. Now, you may not want to eat a pork chop after this or whatever, but myself personally, I don't eat pork. I'm allergic to it. it swells me up. It swells up my neck, swells my wrist, my arms, my legs, you know. And it was just, that's a terrible thing for an old country boy that was raised eating those good old country breakfasts with ham and bacon and sausage and eggs, and you know, you got all that good stuff, and you take the bacon grease or sausage grease and you throw it in a pan with, you know, a couple tablespoons of grease, pork grease, in a pan with some flour and some milk. Make a good thick gravy. Oh boy. Oh, my mouth just, my old taste buds just slickering for a big old pan of hog grease gravy right about now. But I can't eat it. Well, folks, like I said before, it is a subject that seldom few people think about in survival, but to survive, you have to have a healthy, clean, sharp body and mind. And there's parasites in the water. That's why it's always so very important to boil your water. You know, filtering out the dirt, that's up to you. If I'm thirsty enough, I'm going to boil that water for a minute, minute and a half. Cook or kill anything that's in that water, like an amoeba, protozoa, giardia, anything that might be in that water. Most all the groundwater in the United States, surface water, is polluted to some extent or another, either chemically or biologically, with some kind of microorganism that could quite possibly take your life. For example, up around Tulsa, Oklahoma, Lake Keystone, there was a young man swimming up there. He was a teenager, 17, 18, maybe 19 years old, I don't recall, but I do recall the tale. He went swimming, apparently got water up his nose, swim with nose plugs or a nose clamp or nose plugs, whatever, if they make nose plugs, whatever that is. But he got some water in his sinus cavity, and later on he developed a headache, a fever, kind of flu-like symptoms. 3 days later, he was dead. What was the cause? A brain-eating amoeba. Now, if you go to the Miami Preppers channel and watch one of his videos, he's got a video there. I'll go take a look right quick. Let's see, he's in my... Alright, how am I going to do this? Alright. Click my About section. Come on. Come on, YouTube. Alright, Miami Prepper. He discusses the brain-eating amoeba and what it done to a boy in his neighborhood, or in his area. Somebody he heard about. Click on his videos. And limits or limitations is the name of the video, and to the best of my knowledge anyway. And the Miami Prepper has got some outstanding videos. Grill on that little bear. And go get him, little bear. Show him who's boss. That dog of mine. But brain-eating amoeba, you know, those things literally kill a person. And that family was devastated by a simple microorganism that got in their child's system, went into his brain, and just literally ate holes in it. You know, it's a horrible, terrible, shocking thing. But it has to, it's a subject that has to be broached. It has to be dealt with. It has to be faced. Another thing, if you want, I can offer another solution about getting your campsite ready. Cedar. Cedar is used for a lot of things, but it is a number one pesticide, pest killer, and it'll keep snakes away too. You look on any bundle of cedar shavings at Walmart, and it will read plain and clear, warning not to be used for snake bedding, because it burns the reptile's skin. And that's one thing a lot of people won't tell you. They'll say, well, throw mothballs under your house. Well, that works too. It's strong smelling, and it's has chemical components to it, and it pretty well repels the snakes. But cedar or cedar oil, and you can get cedar oil on eBay, 8-ounce bottle, put it in a little misting bottle or something, and just spray it around like a little bug spray bottle, pest repellent bottle that you buy at Walmart. That runs out, you're all for your DEET in a little pump spray bottle. Put some wash it out, put some cedar oil in there, and spray around your tent, where you're going to put your tent, if you want to sleep out under the stars, spray that area where your sleeping bag's going to be. Spray your boots or your shoes. But really, you don't want to get this stuff on your skin because it will burn you. It will cause a burn. And if you really want to get inventive and take some cedar wood, fresh cut cedar, and boil it, and boil it, and boil it, and boil it, make your own. Boil it down to the consistency or thickness or thinness that you want that liquid to be. And make sure you get it a good even coat out there on that ground. You can spray it around your house. It'll keep fleas away. Check it out online. Use your computer. Increase your knowledge about cedar oil and cedar shavings repelling fleas and ticks. So there's this myth, and I'm going to bust this myth wide open, that cedar trees attract ticks. Wrong. How do I know? Because I live out here in the woods, and I have brushed up against many a cedar tree, and any dipshit that tells you that a cedar tree is a nesting place for ticks, they're wrong. And here's how I can validate that. When it starts to rain, what happens? The insects start to move. And even with the danger of rain coming on, ticks don't want to be on the ground. They'll climb any tree around, even a cedar tree. They'll stay up there for a short period of time, but they will come back down, and they'll go about their business. Those little parasites will go about their business trying to find blood. But remember, cedar oil, cedar shavings, the green hull of the black walnut. If it's black, if the hull is turned black, then it's practically no good to you. I keep Little Bear dewormed with that green hull of black walnut. I'm due to go over into Oklahoma soon and get some black walnut hulls, some green hulls off the black walnuts at one of my buddy's house. I'm going to be going over there and visiting for a few hours, and maybe even shoot a YouTube video over there. I think I pretty well covered everything, but wild meat has always got to be cooked real good, just the same as any meat you get in the store, because you don't know what might be squirming around in that flesh, whether it be the actual parasite or that egg sitting there laying dormant waiting to be digested by an animal, and then it hatches out and goes to work feeding on, well, you. It's a sore, sick, disgusting subject, and it's also a life-threatening subject. So that's why I bring it about. It has to be faced. Not many survivalists or survival teachers are going to tell you about that kind of thing, because they don't even think about it. They don't consider it. But me, every aspect of survival is important. Everything. Because I've studied nature my entire life. Ever since I was a little bitty kid. I wasn't 2, 3 years old before I started learning about this stuff. Now some of these guys will say, well, I've been out there since I was a teenager. Okay, yeah, sure, okay, you know a lot. Have you considered this? Oh, no. Okay. So you just learned something. Parasites are a very real thing. And they're a very dangerous thing. Now, what did I do with that lighter? Oh, great. Oh. It's not around my neck. It's lost. Well, folks, this here's the old mountain man signing off from the backside of this here lake in the hills of Arkansas. And remember, keep an eye out for those wolves in sheep's clothing that'll try to deceive you and pull the wool over your eyes, stab you in the back or what have you. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other, and just, you know, well, those wolves in sheep's clothing are another variety of parasite. I'll talk with y'all later. You take care now. And adios.